This is sexy, huh? Sweat stains while you're working in your driveway. Oh yeah. I think I'm gonna bring sweat stains back. Hey guys, what's up? Serena Appiah here from thriftdiving.com, and yes, I have sweat stains under my arms. No, I'm not going to go change my shirt for this video because I'm going to keep it real. Anyway, we are working on this amazing project. We've got this steel cabinet from the thrift store. It was literally like $6 or $7, and we're going to put some hairpin legs on it. We had it professionally stripped because I was testing out some professional stripping services, and if you want information about that, you can find the link below in the description. But it's ready to go. All we have to do is sand it down lightly, add some lacquer to it so it doesn't rust, and then cut out some little pieces of wood so that we have something to attach the legs to. And of course, we have to glue it and screw it. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with a very light sanding, and then we're just gonna spray this baby down. So let's do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create 4 patterns here and then cut them out with a jigsaw. This is so that I've got some wood that I'll be able to attach to the bottom of the metal cabinet to attach to the hairpin legs. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to attach. It won't attach to the metal. So I'm just going to cut out 4 legs here. Here's where I ran into a little snag. So I realized that when I tried to trace out the hairpin leg exactly and cut it with my jigsaw, it didn't quite fit well because there was that little 1/2-inch lip there that you see that the wood pieces are sliding under. So I had to account for that. So I just added 1/2 inch to the piece and the hairpin leg fit perfectly. And in order to secure the wooden pieces, I used E6000. A friend of mine recommended it. I had it on hand, so I went ahead and used that. I clamped it down really tightly and I let it sit for about a week. Typically, you only need to let it sit for about maybe 24 to 48 hours, maybe 72, depending on what you are actually gluing. But I had other things going on, so I let it set for about a week. Okay, so it's been about a week. I have not had time to work on this project, but it is all dry. The E6000 worked really good to get these pieces of wood clamped on here. And now we can just remove the clamps, put the hairpin legs on, and then spray it down. So let's go ahead and remove these clamps. So I had this cabinet professionally stripped. Now, even though it was professionally stripped, I still had to sand it. Well, I started with 220 grit sandpaper, which was crazy because all it did was scratch it. So I went out, I bought some 800 grit sandpaper, and it worked really well. You see here that there's some discoloration. It really smoothed it out, and then I finished it with a 0000 very fine steel wool, and it looked amazing. Now when I flip the cabinet around, you see there's a big rust stain on the back. So when I got it from the stripper, this is what it looked like. And this just happens with rust. You really have to protect it immediately. It's very corrosive, so if you let rust sit for a long time, it will eat through the metal. Thankfully, I didn't have that problem. I was able to sand it out. You see the cabinet on the left, the drawer? That's after sanding, after using the steel wool, and it cleaned up very nicely with some of the rust spots that were there. So I was happy. So at this point, everything was sanded down. It looked really good, and now I could attach the hairpin legs. I used these screws, making sure that it didn't go through the metal, but that they were fat enough and long enough to go through the 1/2-inch plywood. So this is the step that I probably should have done first. When I took the cabinet to get professionally stripped, they put a very light coat of oil on it, and that's to protect it from rust. Well, before you actually put a spray lacquer on there, you got to clean off that oil, otherwise it's not going to stick. So you could either use acetone or denatured alcohol. I decided to use acetone, and I just made sure that I had some gloves on because I didn't want that stuff all over my hands. So now that the surface was clean, I could go ahead and use the spray lacquer. But here's the thing, I could only do one side at a time, and I had to make sure that it was flat, horizontal, otherwise it would just run. So I took it in sections. I did the inside. When it was sitting flat, I would turn it, do the left side, let that dry, turn it, do the front, and that actually helped to prevent the runs. And once it was fully dry, I put a protective mat down, I turned it over, put a couple coats of the spray lacquer, and that's it. And then I cut out a couple pieces of map, so one for Washington, D.C., and the other one for Ghana, West Africa, because that's where my husband's from, and it was done. Okay guys, so that is a wrap. This project is done, and I have to admit, I really love the way it turned out. I was a little disappointed that it wobbles a little bit, But you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing is ever perfect. No DIY project is ever perfect, and that is okay. But anyway, we put some hairpin legs on this old thrifted cabinet, and it looks much better than hanging out in my garage, right? Collecting dust. Now we can go find a place for it inside of the house. So if you like this project, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to go back to the blog because you want to know all the materials that I use, right? So go get the materials list, and I will see you next project. And don't forget, you gotta subscribe, click that button below so that you can catch my next project. So I'll see you next project. The bottom, it's gonna look amazing. We're gonna turn it into a side table. Oh my God!